We waiting on Todd? The one person there. There he is. We're gonna need another.
You better vote.
In the vote. I can move over here, so take it easy. You can sit here.
Doesn't matter.
Here, Todd, you can stay ready. Sure. I'll move over here by Barbie.
My leg man. Oh, poster. I'm not doing the physics.
All right.
You're not quite far enough. Congratulations, I didn't cover the phone.
They found you, Todd.
What's that?
They found you.
I know. I told her I wanted the phone call.
I told you I would call you.
Everybody pretty much logged in other than Todd, ready to go? All right, I got 6 o'clock, so I'm gonna call the meeting of the Highland School Board to order. Josh, are we online then and going as far as you can tell?
We are on and rolling.
Okay.
There's no one, I got the participant thing up, so if somebody comes in, I can let them in, but no one's asking again right now.
Okay, so we are called to order. The first item is roll call by the clerk.
Benish, here. Viva.
Here.
Dreschmeyer.
Here.
Dury.
Here.
Esser.
Here.
Mitchell.
Here.
Schmidt. Here.
All right, you can join me for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Next item is posting of the meeting given to the public pursuant to Wisconsin statute 1984. All right, we have a motion by Esser and a second by Drury. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is approval of the March 10th regular meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion for the minutes.
I'll second.
And we have a motion by Viva and a second by Benish to approve the board meetings from March. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is approval of the current expenses and vouchers payable.
One thing that I saw that was a little unusual, out of the ordinary, but the middle of the second page, and maybe Brad can help me out with this, but we had to purchase a $4,500 the router upgrade for our internet.
Yeah, so WiskNet, which is our WiskNet AT&T, which is our internet provider, they supply the routers for schools, and the equipment that we did have was now obsolete, so it wasn't getting any more security updates. So, and this was in place since last year, so we were the next ones in line to get that device. So it's a one-time fee that we pay for them to service us with the router. So it's here on premise, and then so
Okay.
it's just one of those things that you have to do if you want to stay here with the update. So
Thanks.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
A motion by Esser and a second by Schmidt to approve the current expenses and vouchers payable. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is public appearances before the board, not for action.
I'd actually like to say something.
Okay.
So I know that talking about the masks is on the agenda. So I would just like to give my opinion as a parent to that. I would like to see us make changes in our current, what we're doing. And I know that some agree with me and some probably don't. I do a little research, because I want to stay abreast of what's going on in the country, and you can find data both ways on the subject or not. I read research that they've conducted where people with masks and without, and sometimes that research shows that people with masks are getting it more frequently than without, and somebody might read something contradictory to that. So it's all over the board. We can look at our country, and there are states that are wide open. They don't make their students wear masks in the classroom, and they're doing much better than states that have the strictest mask mandates. So, I served in our military. I fought for what I think is right. And I feel like if I didn't say something, that I wouldn't be fulfilling my duty to do that. So, sorry, I'm out of breath because I had to jog, so I just feel like, we as people should be able to make our own choices in that matter. If you feel that your child should wear a mask, then you're at liberty to do so. But I don't think that I need somebody to make a decision for my child that they should be wearing a mask. And like I said, I know that people are all over the board on this, but you can look at, like I said, all the data that you want to, and there isn't any true data that's telling you that masks work or masks don't. Because some of the strictest mask wearers are still contracting the virus, and people that don't wear masks don't get it, and vice versa. So, that tells you, I think, all you need to know, but that's my opinion. And then people want to talk about, look at the science, look at the science. And one thing that I've been saying is that, they talk about how small air particles are, and like how much bigger like a smoke particle is. Well, if I'm wearing this mask and I go outside and there's a fire, what do I smell? Smoke. Why is it going through my mask if those particles are bigger? So, and the air particles that we breathe are supposed to be smaller than that. So, so Howard is not going through a mask. So I just feel like it should be the people's choice if they want to or not want to. So I just feel like that's, if I didn't say that, it bothered me, so.
All right, Ben, appreciate you speaking your mind, Brad. We don't have any problem with that, and I'm sure that a lot of people in the community share your sentiment, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't as well. Like you said, it's a very controversial issue and something that is, there's not a lot of middle ground on. So, like I said, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us.
Thanks.
Mike, I don't know if, I just want an opportunity to, say a couple things. I know that, this is my last meeting, and, I know you guys, like I heard, he's gonna be long-winded. I don't wanna be long-winded. Just think of all the time you guys are gonna make up now that you're not being here, so, your meeting, so. I just wanna thank everyone. I wanna thank my family, first and foremost. Over the years I've been on the board, there's been some sacrifices, my own family and things I've missed along the way, but they've been supportive, and I need to thank them. Thank the taxpayers of the district for having confidence in me, I guess, for as long as they have. So try to represent very well. And I don't know, I got on the board years ago because obviously there's a few reasons. I don't know if anybody knows one of the main reasons. One of the main reasons I got on the board, my dad was on the board 17 years ago when he passed away from cancer. He was on the board at the time. But I feel like I kind of got on the board, I ran to get on the board to fulfill some of the stuff that he had started. He was very, at the time when the school was built here, he was involved in that. I can remember him coming home, and so after some long nights on that. So I think about him every time I'm at a meeting. I think he was I've been told he was very influential in getting the citing of when we cite the Pledge of Allegiance on the agenda. I heard that it was something he pushed for back in the day. So I think about him every time we do that. So, and just having kids, but we've come a long ways, done some good things, done some really good things. So I just tell the board to dare to be different every once in a while. Keep doing that. I look at the charter school, what we did, how that all started here. It changed the landscape of our school district, in my opinion. So, and that made us different because everybody still asks, how do you guys get to start school earlier than we do? Well, because we took a chance and we took some risks a few years ago. And I think that has suited us well along the way. I've gotten to work for 3 different administrators, and they've all been really good. Bryce, I'm glad you're here. I hope you continue on. I'm glad you didn't read the fine print last December or back in 19 that said, also please, something about the pandemic language that we put in there, so. And, but I wanna thank staff too. I think thank everything they do for our kids. Keep doing what you're doing. I just think that we have good staff, and they recognize we're a small district. Everything is very visual. I think accountability is a big thing, so continue to do that. I want to, again, I need to thank Josh. I was here when we hired Josh, and you've been really, really supportive, and appreciate. I know what you go through on a day's time. So, and the staff that's there in the office with you, all the things I've asked Barb and Linda for over the years, and they graciously do that. Everything. I have problems with the computer, logging in, Brad, everybody here in the district. So thank you all very much for that. I do appreciate it. Good luck I will try to show up maybe now and then, not right away. Might sneak in around an annual meeting or whatever it be, so you can save a chair out there. Maybe ask some tough questions or something. I don't think we've had that in a while, so. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Greg. You kind of beat me to it. I was gonna recognize you and thank you from the board. I know the job sometimes is considered thankless, so we'll give you a thank you on your last meeting here and appreciate, I believe it's 12 years of service to the district. And like I said, there aren't a lot of thank yous given to the board members for what they do, and just want you to know that it's appreciated. I think you've always put the district and the kids first in front of your own needs and personal agenda stuff, so I think that's appreciated. You ask good questions and keep us going in the right direction, so it's been a pleasure to be on the board with you and serve with you here, so.
Thank you, Mike, I appreciate that. Again, to all of you, best of luck. I think the new people coming on, person coming on, so we will do very well, so I think, again, thank you all, appreciate it.
I'll just add to that, Mike, if I could, please.
Yep.
You know, obviously in the last, I can't remember, this is my 11th or 12th year now, to be honest with you, but it's been a blessing for me as an administrator here to have the board that I've had to work for, got to work for in the last 11 years. It's been, you know, we've had, you know, all the way back to Jim Dury, Lisa, JJ, you know, when one gets off, another one comes on, and we just keep rolling. And it's been a nice, awesome, I guess, I don't know if I'd say benefit or maybe just a comfort as administrator to know the board that you have worked with is the support that we get on our end too. So Greg, obviously your last meeting, so thank you on behalf of administration and the staff and everyone else involved with the school district for all the years of service that you have given us. So thank you.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Is there anybody online, Josh?
We have a few.
If anybody has anything, now would be the time for public comment, otherwise we're gonna move on. All right, on to announcements and reports. Josh, you're up first.
I'm up. I have a longer list tonight. I'll try to go as quick as I can, but feel free to let me know any questions that you might have. But number one on my list, state testing. I was not real happy that the DPI still wanted us or is still, you know, making that something that we need to do when we're trying to work through the pandemic, but that is something that's still an expectation for them. But we'll do it because that's what we do. So we're getting through that. We're about halfway through right now. Our elementary classes are finishing up. Our middle school classes will start here shortly. 4th and 8th grade, as you know, have the longer test, and our high school underclassmen will have the Aspire, ACT Aspire. And our juniors took the ACT, and most of them, probably about, we think three-quarters of them, probably Barbie, have got their results back yet. We have not got them as an administration or as a school district yet, mailed to us, but most of the kids know now how they did on that as far as our juniors. Some concerns, obviously 3rd quarter is now over, grades are in, and you know, we have more kids than I'd like that didn't do well the 3rd quarter. I think it's a direct to virtual schooling where they just fall off that wagon if they're not in school here, especially those ones that, you know, we have a hard time keeping track of when they're in the building, and when they're not, it makes it twice as hard. So obviously we have a plan for credit recovery for those that we talked about last board meeting, where we do the credit recovery so we can keep those kids on par and on pace to graduate on time. Absent students is another big one. The kids that get up there and absentees or are not here, it really shows that stuff adds up quick. And if, you know, when you get behind 1 day, 2 days, and then you get the new stuff when you do get back, that stuff, you know, with a kid that needs more time to learn things, it really starts to steamroll, gets them stressed out, and it makes it tough. So when you have too many absent days, it really takes a toll. And next year we need to clean that up. You know, to be honest with you, I've been more lenient with that this year because of the pandemic and because of all the stuff these kids are going through and you know, situations at home, as you all know. So, but we'll do the best we can and we'll get better. We have 2 new students that started this week. We have a new 3rd grade student, and a new sophomore that, just moved into our district, actually last couple of years, no relation. But, so another 2 students that we added to our district. Vaccinations, all our staff that chose to be vaccinated are now, so that's, they just finished up. Actually, I think I was in the last group, and, yesterday was a week past my 2nd shot, so anyone that wanted a vaccination, as far as our staff was able to get one. We sent some things out now where 16-year-olds and older can get one if they choose to, and families, so I think that is becoming more of an option now, so that's good news. So anybody that wants to get those can get them. And if you are 2 weeks past your 2nd shot, you no longer need to quarantine if you happen to be a close contact, so that's a nice feature for staff and for students that are able to do that, so, and they choose to. Some things that happened since our last meeting, we were able to get our banquets in. Last year, we weren't able to do that because of the timing of when we had to shut down, so we were able to do our wrestling banquet, our football banquet, and both our basketball banquets here. So some awards on those things. As far as basketball, girls basketball, we did very well. So the awards, we had most improved went to Harper Drury. Defensive player of the year went to Mag, my daughter. Offensive player of the year went to Rachel Miller, and the MVP was Mag. Conference awards, Rachel and Caitlin Nesser both had 1st team all-conference recognition, and Rachel was conference player of the year for basketball. So our team did very well. I was very happy with that. Volleyball, Rachel was the most valuable player and the offensive player of the year. Caitlin Mueller was the most improved. And then Macy was defensive player of the year, and she also won the Hustle Award. Rachel also was awarded 1st team All-State this year. So she had an outstanding year in volleyball as well. For our grapplers, the team awards. So we had Cal, who won the most valuable wrestler. Mason won the Hoffman Dedicated Award. Elliott won the Freshman of the Year Award. And the most improved wrestler was Colton Cutts. So our state recognition, I should say our state qualifiers, our sectional qualifiers, let me back up a little bit. We were able to put quite a few. We had a great year as far as people who qualified for sectionals. Cal Dorota, Elliott Viva, Mason Welch, Colton Cutts, Donald Laufenberg, Caitlin Linder, Blake Dax, and Andrew Winters, all sectional qualifiers. We were able to get 4 out of that went to state, and we did well. Colton Cutts got 6th place, Mason Welch got 4th place, Elliott Viva got 3rd place, and Cal Dorota got 2nd place, so did very well. Boys basketball, team awards on that. Let me pull those up here. I think I got them right here. Under my name, if I can find it. Max Olson was the offensive player of the year and the co-MVP with Justin Miller. I'm sorry, with Isaac Mitchick, who was also co-MVP. Justin Miller was defensive player of the year. Colton Healy was the most improved, and Colton Frost won the Hustle Award. All conference for basketball, Isaac Mitchick, honorable mention. Weston Frost, honorable mention. Max Olson, 2nd team, and Justin Miller, honorable mention. Football. Scout team player of the year was Colton Frost. Defensive MVP was Cal Dorota. Lineman of the year was Gabe Benish. Most valuable football player was Justin Miller. Most improved football player, Isaac Mitchick. Offensive most valuable player was Owen Halverson. Justin Miller was also All-State honorable mention. Blake Dax was 2nd team all-conference at linebacker. Honorable mention center. Josiah Green, 2nd team guard and down lineman, 2nd team. Donald Laufenberg, 1st team down lineman, 2nd team guard. Owen Halverson, 1st team running back and outside linebacker, 1st team. Max Olson, first team wide receiver and kicker, second team punter, D-back. Cal Dorado is co-defensive player of the year, first team halfback and inside linebacker. Justin Miller, offensive player of the year, first team quarterback and defensive back. Gabe Benish, second team defensive end and second team tackle. Isaac Mitchell, honorable mention defensive back and wide receiver. Drew Nanke, second team tight end and H-back. Simon McCarthy, who's honorable mention running back. Coach Aide, conference coach of the year. And Justin Miller, as I mentioned, was honorable mention All-State. So obviously when you have an undefeated season, you should win a lot of awards, and we did. They put this together, I'll pass this around, was something that Johnny Dagenhart did for us. It's pretty cool. If you haven't seen that, take a look at that. So that's something we'll hang up. We call the WA, and we are allowed, we're considered regional champions, so we'll put those dates up on our regional list for champions in that. Any questions on that stuff? Hope I didn't miss anything there. No? All right. Next on my list, speaking of sports, we're gonna have to start some tough conversations as far as our future numbers in our sports. Some things that are, well, let's use football as the first one. Next year, we'll have probably more numbers in football the way we look right now. And we have a combine coming this Friday again for all our football players for next fall. We're gonna be pushing mid-40s, which is more than we've had probably since I was in high school, a long time, which is great. However, a couple of years from now, those numbers are gonna get smaller. We got some low numbers in our middle school, so we're gonna have to make some tough decisions about what our future football program is going to look like. I think we need to open up that conversation again in regard to either a co-op or an 8-man, if that's something that, either one that we want to do. We wanna start those early because you gotta do them in 2-year increments. So if that's something that we wanna look at, we wanna be prepared for that. So obviously Lynn Mitchell, we're working right now just to show you guys some numbers, and we'll get those to you so we can make some decisions and community meetings and stuff like that we wanna do. We're gonna have the same situation for boys basketball, girls not as much, but boys specifically. Our middle school, like 6th grade, 5th grade, I think we have one 6th grader that plays basketball, 5th grade. We're not much better, about the same. So those conversations are gonna have in those sports as well, but what we want basketball here for boys and for girls eventually, what it wants to look like or what it wants to look like. Being to be able to support a JV and a varsity team or something that, you know, is looking a little harder that, so as a co-op or something different, something that we're gonna need to look at. Wrestling, obviously right now, we have the co-op with our grant. I think that's going great. Our numbers are staying pretty strong. When we put both schools together, we're able to put, as you can, well, I guess you probably didn't see the numbers this year, but I think, Greg, would we have maybe 2 open classes this year? You know,
Yeah.
most times, obviously switching people around, but.
Yeah, it was, they had 8 or 9 freshmen between.
Right.
And next year it's gonna be more than that,
Right.
probably, so there's.
We're hanging right in there, so
Yeah.
the co-op is going good there, I think, as far as I know. So I think that's been a benefit for both schools. Baseball and softball, you know, those are sports, obviously, that's the only thing that we have in the spring, I think, which is a good thing. We don't have track or soccer, so, however, like softball this year, we're looking at 12 girls, so that's not a lot extra. So obviously, there's not gonna be JV innings. So in baseball, they're sitting right now between 15 and 16, I think. So a little better, but nothing that can support 2 teams separately for sure, right? So tough conversations, not unfortunately, I guess to me it's unfortunate, but it just is what it is. We just want to do what's best for kids, and if it's something that we have to change in the future, we want to be ready for that, you know, ahead of time and make sure our ducks in a row if something does need to change, and make sure we keep community involved in those things. So, any questions on that? All right, some future things coming up. We have our NHS banquet. That's going to be April 26th. We got new juniors obviously coming in. We have 11 new juniors. So we have a great junior class. It's the most we've had. And then the 5 existing juniors from last year, the 5 seniors this year. So that banquet will be the 26th. That night is 6:30. We're able to do that again down at the Red Zone. So we're putting steps in place to keep that as safe as we need to, so we can still host that. FFA banquet, same thing, we're gonna host that here pretty soon. They haven't set a date that's got to me yet, but that's coming up. We have our spring concerts coming up. We're able to make it, I think we're gonna have our spring, I know we are, we're gonna try to do our spring concert with our littles in person this spring. So we got it split up enough and the hour split up, that'll be all sent out to parents where the parents can come in and watch their, not just parents actually, I think we split it enough. If you have a grandparent, things like that, immediate family that want to come in, we can make that work. SEP, senior exit, those presentations are coming up here. Junior block presentations are coming up. SEPs are actually April 30th during early release. I'm not sorry, a virtual day, sorry. Prom coming up here next weekend, next Saturday. And then ton of stuff here coming up. And sports start in the spring here on April 19th. And as soon as they get enough practices, then they're gonna be playing a ton of baseball and a ton of softball all week long, depending on weather. So they're gonna just push. And softball, it's not as critical because you can use the pitcher a lot more. However, we lost one pitcher and hopefully, knock on wood, Mike, we keep Grace as healthy as we can because she's gonna be pitching a lot of innings. So, but that's me. Sorry, I took a lot longer than I intended, but.
No, that's right. Let me, any questions for Josh? Apparently they heard enough.
Apparently.
All right, Bryce, you're up.
Since Josh took so long, mine will be shorter, but good to have everybody here. It's my first meeting with everybody all together here. It's just a little, just easier, it seems like, to look around and see people face to face, and I think it's a great thing. Thanks for coming in. I know that it's, the Zoom meeting, that's a great way to do it when we have to, but I just feel more comfortable face to face. So we have two board members reelected, is Todd Mitchick. Thanks for putting in for another go around, and Ashley Yeager. I don't know if you're listening, if she's on or not, but she will be starting, they'll get sworn in and they start on the 4th, or the last Monday of April. So very shortly, Ashley will be on board. The other thing I have is we need a representative for the CISA convention in Thursday, July 22nd. Does somebody usually go to that? Is it the same person, or does it rotate? Okay.
So typically, we've done that at the reorganizational meeting.
Yeah.
We do the CISA representative, the school board conference, and then reorganization as well,
So that's at the May meeting?
at the May meeting.
I was already a volunteer.
There's gotta be something yet in April, isn't there?
So I'm done.
What was the date for that meeting?
The 22nd of July, it's on a Thursday.
Bryce, can I just add, as long as you're talking about the new board members and stuff, May is our reorganizational meeting. So we go through officer elections and committee appointments and stuff like that. So if there's committees that you're on or would like to be on or changes to be made, just let me know.
Okay, and I just want to ask the board members, I sent an email out last night at about 5 o'clock. Did anybody get that until it was resent today? I've got the wrong addresses or something.
I do not check my school email, so if you want to email me, you have to email my work email for me to see it.
I saw both. I see everything. I just did not respond.
Good job.
But it came to you, right?
Yep,
All right,
and it came to my school one, which is fine either way, I don't care. I'm logged into everything.
All right. Most of my stuff is, and I'll be talking most of the rest of the meeting, so unless anybody has any questions for me, most of the stuff I have to go through these agendas.
All right, thank you. Policy committee update. Andy, do you want to give the short version of that, and then we're going to talk about it right as soon as the committee updates are over too?
Yeah, we met with the representative from Neola and went through all the ones we'll be seeing and made some revisions that we will see But I don't think I have anything.
Okay.
I mean, if we do, then
We
we'll
can
be
talk about it.
talking about it there, so.
Okay, sounds good. Finance committee update.
Same thing, we met last week, but everything that was on our agenda is going to be covered in new business with expenditures and revenue projections along with staff fiscal considerations, so that's all on a new business, so.
Okay, sounds good. And Kenny, building and grounds committee update.
Yes, we met last week, and we also met with Tom Granetsky, basically going over roof repairs and what is needed and potential stuff down the road, so you'll see that here coming up as well.
And probably one of the more exciting committee meetings that we got to go walk up on the roof of the school.
Yeah.
The normal one.
I also want to share this, since we're on B&G, Mike, that I talked about this, shared this with the B&G. This is a senior project that Maya Hennessy is doing that's going to go in our weight room. As you know, we lost Levi Linscheid a while ago, and Zeke and Bart wanted to donate something back. Levi, as you know, is a trainer and worked out a lot, so they wanted to help out and put something in our weight room. So they're going to help contribute toward this senior project that Maya is doing. So it's pretty cool. The leadership board, Levi leadership board, what it's got all the different weights that Coach Aid and the FIA teachers use to keep records of for our assessments. So we'll have the record holder that's currently in the school, and then we'll have the other spot for an all-time record holder. So it's pretty cool. It's a little motivation for the kids.
All right, thank you. Looks like we're good to move on to policy development and review. The first reading of the policy revisions are listed there. And Bryce, are you gonna go over some of the summaries on that?
I've got a couple things just to bring back to the committee and the board. One was, a couple of these we had to have staff weigh in on these, so the instructional materials center or the library media center is the option. It was chosen, so I went through that. With the library media specialist here, he had picked, there's a series of goals, major goals, pick those. At the bottom of this, you guys probably don't have it in front of you, but there was procedures. One thing is to, fine students if in certain situations, but both this and the other school I work with, both of those, without prompting from me, they don't assess fines anymore for handing stuff back late. It's just if it's lost or damaged. So we just struck that, and that concluded that policy. That was fairly simple. And then I had Sharon go through the no knit policy, the lice policy. So currently, we've been practicing no live lice, and also she had written in a decrease in the amount of nits as a criteria to go back to school. So that wasn't one of the regular options. We chose option one, and then she also talked to me about not having kids wait go back to the classroom. She crossed that out. I know we had quite a bit of discussion about that at the policy meeting. And so, she is thinking about, how that's to be received by the teachers and things. And we have options to add that in. We have options to keep that the way it's written. That was just her recommendation. So I don't know, feelings of the board on that. I know.
Did you get a chance to talk to teachers about that, Josh? I think at the policy meeting we talked about.
Not as a group, but I did talk to individual teachers, and the way they like the way we have it currently.
Mhm.
I know you mentioned at the meeting about, as far as, is it an issue here like other schools that you mentioned you work with? And it's not, I'm not saying by all means that we don't have it, but it's not an issue that you deal with, that you're talking about.
So another school, same policy, they stay with the nurse, the nurse's room, or just, outside the doorway, or depending who the nurse has anybody in there, so they don't have them wait in the office to be picked up. The idea is, why they send them back, was suggested is because it's a stigma, you know, if the kid's identified or if they're sitting in the office and, you know, what are you doing down here? And it's for the kids' well-being, and lice, if I say this right, it's a nuisance, it's not a disease. And so, you know, it's not as contagious as, but people just get kind of weirded out about it. That's the best way I would put it, so.
The other thing that the gentleman from Neola highlighted was if somebody goes to the office at 8 AM and then they sit in, and this information comes from DPI and the health department and such, and they sit in the office all day, you know, what does that do for their education? And also kids are being sent home for having NITs and every, you know, the very strict policy that we have, and their parents aren't able to get that under control right away, then they're losing out on a significant amount of education. And our job is to educate.
So two of the issues, Andy, is one is when do they get removed from class and whether they're taken home that day immediately or at the end of the day. And then the other is when they're allowed to return. Those are kind of the two.
Yeah, I think the issue is what we're doing with them while they're waiting to be picked up. You know, I don't know if there's a creative, you know, avenue that could be instead of just sitting in the office. And then when they can return. And like I said, ours is, the recommendation is way looser than ours is. Ours is the strictest that you will see currently. And it's not recommended.
Yeah, it's recommended to return them to the classroom. Now, again, another thing that was brought up on that is, well, then would, you know, parent, if they always got to go back to the classroom, and really the kid can just remain with having head lice day after day, and you know, I would say that most of the time it's taken care of. Sometimes people have a hard time getting rid of it, depending on the situation. I don't know how often that is. I think in most cases that it is remediated, and there's a day or so that you're out of school and you're treated, so.
How many children do we have go out from lice in a year of schooling? What's the average?
Oh, I would say.
Obviously, this year's completely different, but in an average year.
Average year, we might have, on average, 2 families that would have it a year.
That's very small compared to, I would say.
What am I right?
That's what I'm saying. So this conversation is kind of not, I mean, it's important, don't get me wrong, right? It is very important. We're talking about 2 children who probably need that education more than anyone else. But if we as a community and a school district could stick behind that family and, you know, just get them the help they need, get them what they need, but yet keep them out of the classroom, get them home, get them what they need. I mean, isn't that what we already do anyway as a community? I feel like we do. I feel like our school district is pretty, you know, like we would do whatever we could to help that child.
Yeah, we have stuff here that we can give. I'll give an example. You know, we've had a situation where, you know, Sharon found it, said, hey, treat it. Now, this most recent one is say, take it home, treat. And she brought it, if you need this, we have an extra one here. You take one of the special combs that you guys, you know, might know there's a special comb that's used to get the nits out. So you go home, treat it this morning, you can bring her back this afternoon, you know? So as long as there's, in our policy, as long as there's less, you know, you don't have a no nit policy. If there's nit, that's, you know, we can work with that.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I can see where if you have a lot of families that have issue, you're right. They're gonna miss a lot of education that it just doesn't work, you know, that way where, you know, like I said, on average, we have 2 families. Now that might be more than 2 students, but usually on average, 2 families that are fighting it.
Well, on the flip side, then we could lessen our policy if because we don't have it as an issue. So then we wouldn't need to have it so strict. I mean, you could look at it that way as well. One more question I had, Bryce. I believe Then the other thing they recommended us changing is the letter home.
Right. Yeah, there wasn't to be no letter.
Correct.
You don't inform anyone.
You don't inform the rest of the class that there's been lice.
Yeah, so
Because
that's not in here at all. And she didn't mention anything about that. One thing she said was, no live lice, which is.
That's right, I mean,
Yeah.
that's,
But a decrease in nits, which is a little bit different, and then, she wasn't returning them to the classroom.
mhm.
So the question whether we go with that, or do we say, no, they return to the classroom if they're not picked up immediately? I guess that's the question. And we can also change, this can also be changed if we think it causes a problem, whichever way we chose it.
But maybe we've been more successful in the notification.
Notification is to the rest of the parents, though.
Yes, and I think that's important. I think it's important.
So the reason that DPI and the health department recommend not doing that is because we're looking more at the mental health and such of those kids that have to deal with that. And the likelihood of the rest of the kids getting it is very slim.
I can understand that and I can respect that, but it's something just like, I just think it's, like my daughter, when that happens. Her up in a ponytail, things like that, whatever, I understand, I understand that part, but I think maybe that's one reason too, that we've been not at a high number of cases. I agree, we probably had that number you threw out there, a couple cases a year. Just
I think our numbers are different because our population is different.
could be, but I can see it both ways. I just thought,
It's a really stressful topic. Nobody wants their kids to get head lice, but.
So Bryce, in these revisions that we're looking at, do we have anything written in that? Right now, I know at the policy committee, we talked about it, but we didn't have any firm edits on it like we had on these other ones. And I think we were gonna try gathering some input, and it probably would be best to go back to policy, and it's a lot easier to hash it out in a small group than it is.
Well,
I went to the people who haven't heard it yet.
So I would say maybe just the lice one, but the structural material one, bring the lice back to some people.
Yeah,
Policy.
back to policy.
Bring the lice policy back, don't bring the lice back.
I would
always
also,
come back.
just an editorial here, but this, since, our district has gone with the policy service through Neola, we usually don't have, there's usually some things, I might bring out a couple policies that I want to make sure that we know about if there's something new, but generally, because the committee looks at it and looks at it in detail with the consultant, usually goes through very quickly. In the old days, and like Greg and I were talking about this, you did this every meeting, just like this, for like a long time. And every meeting there was something you're bringing back, so we would, if you did the first readings of this, I'll get more input on this policy, and then do a second reading with what's changed. Sure. But it's just such a efficient way to do it, and you also have the consultant there and the templates. It's been really a slick way and time saver. So this is probably the most we spent on this in a year on policy at a board meeting.
Right.
Just this discussion.
and that's a good point. If you can get the first reading done with the recommendations, it does save you a meeting
Yes.
to.
Make the change and see what we come up with for next.
Is there anything else in there then that you wanted to highlight, or is that enough for the first reading to get that approved? And we'll probably have another policy meeting before next month's second reading.
If you want to, I could just send out this policy by itself with pre-written, just add it to the full board agenda, because it'll be the second reading, then it'll be trying to modify the license policy.
Yeah, we'll have that modified before the second reading is what you're
Yes.
saying. Yes, okay.
Do you need a motion?
I do.
I make a motion to table the lice policy and.
No, are
It would be great if we could approve the first reading,
Oh.
and we'll revise that before the second
Okay,
reading.
then I approve the first reading.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Schimick and a second by Mitchell to approve the first reading of the policy revisions that we went through with Neola. Second reading will be next month with final revisions. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Then we're on to new business, which is, the first item is the waiver of the requirement to serve milk every day under the Wisconsin School Day Milk Program.
So that's,
Needed for our virtual Fridays.
yes, and anytime we have a virtual day, we're counting as a day of school, we can't serve the milk, so it's just a waiver of that requirement.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
A motion by Esser and a second by Benish to waive the requirement to serve milk every day under the Wisconsin School Day Milk Program. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next item are the 2021-2022 Suite 1 and 2 agreements.
If you're familiar with SWEEP, that gives us, we're in a consortium with the several schools. It looks like 15 schools are identified in the area. And we save money because we are able to use like top dressers and seeders and other lawn grounds equipment. And the cost, it's kind of funny how it just shows in the revenue, it shows $100 for these. It used to be 200, I think it looks to me like it's 100. It was 200 for a long time. But that's all it is, but since it's a cooperative, we have to have a board approved. And it lists aerators and turf, it's a really good deal. Then there's also, I think, sometimes you can get discounts on supplies if you use that. I recommend you go ahead with it, and we do this every year, most schools that are in the consortium.
I make a motion to approve the sweep agreement 1 and 2.
I'll second it.
A motion by Schimick and a second by Esser to approve the sweep agreements 1 and 2. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. On to Upland Hills. This one's a 2021 to 2024 therapy services contract.
Right, and this is increasing this year to 67.75 per hour. We're billed per quarter hour. That's as a therapist, and then it's $44 an hour for assistant therapist. Last year it was $60, but these are like 3-year contracts, so it looks like a pretty hefty increase, but it looks like 3 years. And then the only other thing I want is in here that I noticed, the top of page 3, under 9, it says, if we hire one of their therapists away from them, we're agreeing, they're saying it's gonna cost us $20,000 to pay them back for all the recruitment, training, all their costs. So they just, if we do this, we're not really gonna be hiring those therapists to work for our school. But we wouldn't anyway, because we wouldn't be able to employ a full-time one. But I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of that.
What is the district's, now I looked at these over the years, but what is the district's, am I trying to find something in this contract? If if it's brought to our attention or, it's determined, I don't know. And it says that a lot of these therapists are licensed with DPI. But if there's an issue that comes up, just maybe the way they treated an injury or, I've seen it happen, not here, but I've seen it happen in a couple of schools where tournaments where they had some people, people there to help with injuries and stuff, and the way they handled the injury of an athlete at that time was the way, and again, I'm not an EMT, I'm not, but I was told by different people the way that they went out and treated that, it was totally against all the rules so all I'm asking is, so is there, we have the ability, if that comes up, to bring that to someone's attention, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so they're employed by Upland Hills, so we bring it to them, is what I'm reading under number 8, in the bottom of page 2. So the first contract we're talking about is we use occupational therapy and physical therapy. The next one would be the athletic training, but it's from the same place. So yeah, we are contracting with them, so we'd have to bring it to their attention and.
So no matter what okay, I see. No matter what the contract is, any service that they provide, we obviously, they just take the steps to work that out with Upland Hills if there's an issue, right?
Right, and then, it could be an investigation, it could be a decision if it was a difference of opinion, if it was something that was negligent, or if it was something that was, did it on purpose, that'd be another matter, so we take that up with them, and, the term, number 12, without cause, determination or for cause, so if there's some remedies to get out of the contract if we think they were really unreasonable or breach of contract. And we can get out with 60 days notice and without cause, and 30 days with cause.
Do you want to run both of these together, or is that one different? Or you want a separate motion?
Let's do them separately, Greg.
Well, I'd make a motion on the therapy services contract to approve.
I'll second.
So a motion by Viva and a second by Mitchell to approve the Upland Hills Therapy Services contract. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Then we're on to the athletic training services. So does anybody have any questions on that one in regards to?
It will be 5,200 this year, or the next 3 years, and it was 4,000 the past 3 years. But that's just based on what they're charging us.
We do have a new trainer too this year. Trainer Mike is moved to a different couple districts, so we have a new one now that she has just been here a couple times now, last couple weeks. Just brought her a couple times to introduce her to people, and then she's here tonight. So Allison's her name. She's from Illinois. Poor thing. And currently lives in East Dubuque. Poor thing. But she's a very nice lady. I don't obviously know her well yet, but we'll get to know her. So she's obviously with us and with Iowa Grant.
I'll make a motion to approve the athletic training services contract.
I'll second.
Motion by Mitchell and a second by Benish to approve the 2021-24 athletic training services contract with Upland Hills. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. On to the mask update then, Bryce.
Okay, we've been getting a couple people asking, a couple parents asking some things, whether we're gonna remove the masks before the end of the school year. There's also, some schools in the news or in the newspapers, a few schools up north have done that. There was a CISA survey and I included that. You should be able to click on that. And some of us were waiting to see what the latest board decided, but of these schools, none of them, there's several schools listed here, and none of them are removing. They all will continue, is what the current stance is. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but just to kind of set the overall reasoning is, first of all, when the governor, his mask mandate was overturned, that's just a legal battle, that's just, he was challenged, it was on it, whether he had authority to do that, and it was overturned. It wasn't anything to do with timing of any safety or anything. I think everybody would love to get rid of the masks. However, we've done well this year. We've been this far. We've got some things that we'd like to see through, like not to have any more virtual days of school because of, an outbreak. We'd like to certainly not have any athletics canceled, especially this spring, because they didn't even have the season last year of it. And, there's just a lot of reasons to finish this out. There are some things we think we could do. This is my thinking, my recommendation, some things outdoors. Whether we, and I guess we already have done this, we've not required masks in recess for some elementary kids. So they're able to play out now without masks. Also, baseball, softball games, home games, only requiring masks when you don't social distance. If you go there and you're social distance, don't wear masks. We think about bringing concession stands, having concession stands. We'll have some precautions in there, but it's people's choice. I talked with it to Mike and trying to differentiate what that is. It's like, well, you can choose to go to the games. You don't have to go. You can choose to go to the concession stand. So I'm my mind is pretty clear. Let's finish out the school year with masks in the building. But then there's other parts of this is, well, then how soon do we start weeding it away? We've got June, we've got summer school to consider, we've got athletic leagues, we've got weight room, we've got musical, right? In June. And so maybe the bigger question is, how soon do we remove masks? How do we do it just one day there's no more masks? Do we have it for some, do we wean it off? There's just a lot of things to discuss, but I don't think any of us like wearing them. They're a nuisance, we're sick of them, but there's 30, 34, 32 days of school left. Can we just, I don't feel like I want to take a chance with other people's kids that, just by opening this up. That's my thinking. So for discussion or comment, and it's controversial, I know, but, maybe even a month from now, we need to have more of a clearer course on what we're gonna do for summer school. And another thing about that, if kids do need to be quarantined, if there was some spread in the summer, they're not missing school, they're not missing events. We're not calling off school for that. It would mess up some summer school things, but it's kind of like there's always a health risk, but there's less other things at stake in the summer. Then we can kind of gauge how that goes. People can come in and do things, and if it's not taking off in the summer, that's the time I think we should, for lack of a better word, kind of say experiment or it's our kids. I don't want to say we're experimenting with our kids really though, but we could test it out or how we would say that. So that's just my thoughts and it's up, for discussion, I guess, between this group.
Just on that same note too, as Mr. Bird mentioned, that is a conference that we voted on as well, that I believe the superintendents need to vote on that yet, but it sounds like it's going to be, and this is what our recommendation as well, for spring sports, there'll be no limit on fans, so unlimited social distance if you can't social distance, no masks unless you can't social distance within your family groups. Students, players don't have to wear a mask while they're playing, but in the dugout they will. And then we're recommending that we allow concessions to be open. And as far as the conference, that's the same thing that they're recommending through our Six Rivers Conference, other than the concessions as an as-school thing. So we would be consistent if we did that with the conference, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And there's no WIA requirement right now. I had heard that they were gonna try requiring it at all events, but I don't know where that's at.
That is not out yet. That might be coming though. So, I mean, that's one thing the players are gonna have to know. That might be, as far as your basketball, obviously they did it throughout the whole year.
Yeah, I think it was less on the players and more on the spectators, which I was surprised that the WIA could regulate that, but I guess they can regulate anything at their events.
I suppose.
Just for anybody listening in, that can't see this, there were 18 schools responded. 2 nights ago, basketball took the same stance that they're going to continue the mask throughout the year, similar stance to this. So,
is there any way to ease it outside if there's anything outdoors? I know you said something with recess already. I know with springtime, obviously, it's Bryce would say 30 some days. If there's stuff going on outdoors and classes, I don't know, and their distance, can they?
Yeah,
Is that a problem? That we could.
Yeah. We got mask breaks back, and we're actually recommending get them outside, get the masks off them, get the fresh air, try to keep them, again, I'm not trying to guarantee that every kid, especially those littles, are gonna stay 6 feet apart. We can't do that, but we'll do the best we can, but we wanna get the masks off them if we can out there, let them get that air, so.
If there's a class, whatever it may be, that they can do something outside for that class period, is it something to consider, or is it, I'm just asking, I don't.
Oh, definitely.
If
they can do it, depending what it is.
I understand, we got how many districts are doing the same thing, but if there's a way, like I said early on, and this is a tough one, it's okay to be a little different on some of this stuff, but I'm thinking outdoors is what I'm thinking. That's just my opinion. Everybody's got a thought on it, but
Right.
maybe you're already thinking about that, so.
And as you know, I think it's obviously, we had someone speak tonight that's, everyone can bring up valid points on both ends of this, so that's what makes it so hard, and I don't disagree with any of that. I would be the first one to tell you that I would love to get rid of these dang things, but, it's a tough one either way.
No, I think, appreciate you guys bringing this. It's a hard topic to talk about, and I do want to recognize that there's a lot of people in the community that don't want to see them anymore, but I always look at this as, one of the things that's hard about being on the board is when you're a parent, you're worried about your kid. And when you're on the board and trying to run the school, you have to worry about everybody's kid, and it's just a little bit different perspective. And I guess if we're gonna err on one side or the other, I guess I'd like to err on the side of caution and safety. And, we've made it through 6 months and in the 6 weeks, but I do appreciate if we can find ways to relax it when it makes sense, outside, just different ways to provide it, if we can do distancing and different groups after school or something even, but in school during, when they're confined in classrooms and stuff, I don't know how we can get away from it.
But are they still 6 feet apart in classrooms?
They are. We had to, I don't know if you notice when you leave here, you see, if you look down the hallway here, we have desks in the hallway.
Yeah.
So if there's in a class, for example, like an English class, we got one English class that we can't get them all in there 6 feet, so we have desks outside where they, in our history class is the same way, so we rotate students, so there might be 3 outside in the hallway, they just do it just like they were at home virtually, and we rotate those kids through, so every classroom in the middle of high school right now has every student 6 feet apart when they're in class. And then obviously the elementary, the same, it's been all year, you're in there, we try to keep them in their separate classrooms, we split up the recesses to have our lower and elementary, so they're not, so they're not intermingling as, we split our lunches up, but to keep, obviously, as you know, those little 6 feet apart all days, and, we can't do it.
It's tough.
And so I think that's what we're going to do going forward. However, we need to talk again in May. I don't know if we want it as an action item, because we kind of left all this to the administration. We discussed it because we may have to go back. We may loosen up something, and then we may decide, no, let's remask. So we'll have to have a different discussion in May, because summer school's coming and summer events and graduation, and also the athletics go late into June, right? It's a little different. They're not done in June 1st or 10th or.
No, it's more closer depending on how they do, and I think that both teams are going to do well this year, so I'm hoping they'll be playing in even later June, so.
20, so I think, there has to be some considerations around that, keep those people safe, but
I do think, as Mr. Bird mentioned, that we want to start that process of what it might look like next fall, and if that's something that we can do in summer school and give kids, it's definitely something I want to, and who knows what things will be out in a month, as you know, maybe things could change, but, and our summer school is multi-age, and we want to make sure parents know that before they send their kid, where right now they're not, so.
But
That's
also
another
it's a
thing we'll
lot
look at.
smaller, correct?
Correct. Well, we'll still, depending on what class, I mean, there's less kids, but you might have, 20 in the class.
Right, but it's also
Yeah.
less exposure still.
Yeah, we might be premature to talk about what we're gonna be doing in June
Right.
tonight, but bringing it back next month. And I think everybody wants to move forward as quick as we can. I'm just afraid of moving forward too quick and getting a setback, and then we are virtual for the last 2 weeks of school, and I don't think anybody wants that.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing I think is, if you can deal with this for 30 more days, if it's gonna avoid 2 weeks of virtual school, because I hear more complaints about the virtual days than I hear about this. No, a lot of people want those gone. And
Me too.
even these virtual Fridays like this week, like everybody, I get that question, on a fairly frequent basis, but it's like, why are we still doing those if we don't need to? So I think that's what we want to avoid more, is the virtual days, and 30 more days or whatever you said it was to the end of the school, so.
All right, the way we've been doing this is just having you guys provide us updates, and if there's a lot of dissent from what your recommendations are, we can talk about it and send you in a different direction, but I think we just been kind of going on consensus, and I don't see any dissent here, so I know not everybody agrees with it, and I know everybody would like to do things differently, but again, erring on the side of caution for right now. I think the plan is good going forward. So appreciate the extra information from the other schools, and it's always good to know. Next item then is project recommendations from the Building and Grounds Committee.
Well, I don't know what to do with this one item, because it came up after the Building and Grounds, and we can show it, we can wait until next month, but this is the MasterCom bid, so it's to replace the controls and the amplifier for the public address system, the PA system in the building. And I actually had Brad take me in and show me what he's talking about, and he told me the problem intermittently it doesn't work, or certain rooms don't work. When that happens, he showed me where he goes in and there's all these wires coming out, all these, like speaker wires, and he has to wiggle stuff around and then it starts working again. So obviously there's corrosion or there's something going on. There's another spot over the amplifiers where there's condensation of a pipe overhead and it dripped down. And the amplifier is working, but that can't be good either. And there's, I asked him to get another bid. So we have a couple bids to compare. So we can either just, bring this back in May. It doesn't have to be replaced. They wouldn't, I don't know if they even get when they would be able to come out here, but we have some money that we would like to spend in this year's budget. So get another bid and just bring this back for consideration in May. Does that sound like a good idea?
Yes.
I think that would be best.
Okay, and then the other thing we did get from the roof consultant for the roof repairs, he did a range. He also said that, that he can, this would be narrowed down, so we kind of asked for a not to exceed number. If we could do it that way, in the range that he has, 13,000 to 15,600. If you added the two together, that's what I came up with, if somebody wanted to check the math, but you bid a couple different ways. And one was, one is to fix potentially when it tears on the edges of the roof, on the outside edges, and one is where it meets the wall, is my understanding.
Has this already been seen by Building and Grounds, this
Yeah.
estimate?
Yep, so on
What's recommended on
the roof is a rubber membrane and it should lay flat and then go up the edges.
Right.
And what happens is it gets old, it starts to shrink and it's pulling away from the edges and eventually that's gonna tear along the seams. So we've been talking about when we need to replace the roof and this would buy us some time. Cause that's one of the failures is when that starts tearing along the edges on you. That seemed like one of the critical things. So we're trying to
minimize the effect on what's gonna happen when it does tear, because when it does tear, obviously there's gonna be a lot more damage at that point than there is going ahead and fixing it now before it does tear.
So things like you don't want water in the building, but you don't want the insulation to get wet.
Yeah, once the insulation gets wet, and then for how long the insulation's wet, then you're probably looking at total insulation replacement on the roof. If we can keep the insulation dry, when we do go to re-roof it, more than likely, there's a very good chance we should be able to reuse that insulation and just add to it. So we would not have to do a total replacement and
How
save
long
money.
will this repair get us?
This will get us to the next referendum in 4 to 5 years where we have to go to referendum for putting a roof on the elementary side of the building. We don't do these repairs now, we're gonna be, I'm afraid we will far exceed what you see here for cost.
So Bryce, what did you say when you added these up was?
I got 13,000 to 15,600. So if you said not to exceed 15,600, that would cover what it can do.
Yeah, I think if we do get a tear in there, it's gonna cost more to fix it at that time. And then once we do get a tear somewhere, we're gonna wanna do the rest of this anyway. And we're trying to get through our budget at the end of the year. And there's a little bit of money left in the maintenance budget for stuff like this. And I think this would be a good way to use some of that money as preventative maintenance for to that roof. He made it sound like when that roof fails, or one of the main failure modes is gonna be these edges tearing on us.
I'd make a motion to approve the roof repair not to exceed, I'm just gonna call it 16,000.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion by Esser and a second by Schimick, to approve up to $16,000 for the roof repairs pending the final bids on that. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, then we're on to the budget update.
Okay, so I'm gonna cover, 3 different things in the budget update. If you could click on the first item under revenue projections. And so we're doing a couple of things with revenue, the money coming in, the money we work with is, it's showing what we budgeted in the first column, and we're showing like a snapshot at the end of March. And there's a difference there in some areas, and some areas they're really, really close. That are projecting a year end, but if you look in the, what's that, lilac color, it's showing the difference where the revenues are higher or lower. And it's showing that we have about $15,850 less of revenue than we originally budgeted. Now, some of that, a lot of this, it's a different year, so we were low in some areas surrounding gate receipts, student fees, those type of things, that we didn't have as much things going on in the building, so that made a difference. Other things, it's normal sometimes, you have several $1 million in your budget, so if you're off 15,000, that's a very small percent. So that's what that's showing for a projected year end. And then we're showing in the next box to the far right, some differences projected for next year. Now, we have, when we do our count, it comes out to about a little over 300 kids that we get X amount of dollars per kid. And the governor's proposal is to have $200 per student increase in that area. We did this projection with $150 per student. There's usually a compromise, whatever comes out, the legislature, they compromise, they take some things out, they change it around. So that number could be slightly higher, but we're looking at, we're gonna have more revenue because we paid off the unfunded pension liability. So some of our tax money as it came in was assigned to that $58,000 payment. Now we don't have that payment, so that can go into the Fund 10 budget, so we have more money in there because of that. We're looking, if we increase $150 per student, that gives us a little bit more revenue limit authority, so we would be able to tax slightly more. The one thing I didn't, like the question came up about how much state aid, what that's based on. Well, we didn't do a state aid projection. We want to make sure we know how much we spend this budget year. When you're pretty accurate on how much you're gonna spend this year, then that goes into estimating aid for next year. I use the same aid amount as we had this year. But in the bottom, far right on the bottom, we're projecting 153,000 more revenue for next year. And part of that is coming from 120,000 for ESSER 2 funding, and we could use that several ways. And we didn't even include ESSER 3 yet, but the ESSER funds, we can use them to the end of September 30th, 2024. So some of this money we're gonna want to use in different budget years. We're not gonna wanna, spend it all at once. There's other considerations with that too. If we use federal funds, when we do that, and we will do that, but when we do it to offset money that we're spending ourselves, we don't get aided on it. because they're using federal funds. So we have to watch how we use this so we don't knock our aid down and get our taxes to raise. So that's a little tricky. We have to, do some strategies with that. And then, but as you know, if we do have any excesses that we can put in Fund 46, we do get aided on that. And we don't have to decide that until the July meeting, so we've got some time. Actually, you can do it, I think, the last day of July, but we'll have some money. We expect to have this amount of money in these type of revenues in the Fund 10 revenues for next year. So that's the revenue projection. And again, could be more, could be different depending on what the state comes up with for the final rules, but we don't, generally you have to make a lot of decisions and you don't know how much money you're gonna have for sure, and you never know exactly for sure until late in October. So that's why schools, and you've got a large enough fund balance to cover 18% of your expenditures, I think is where ours is at. So that helps you recover or adjust if things are really slashed in one year. So that's something to keep in mind. And I always, we budget, we plan, but it's different maybe than some businesses because we don't know how much money we're gonna have. So we try to guess or estimate how much money, and then we try to make the budget fit in under that. The best way I can explain it. So good for revenues?
Yep.
Okay. Expenditures to date. Yeah, it's gonna make these real big. So I can see them, but. So again, we're showing what we budgeted year to date, which would be, I don't know if it's the end of March or if it's sometime, and then it's showing the percentages, for different things, obviously. So it's showing in some cases that we spent 2/3 or 3/4 of these budget line items. In other ones, we spent a lot less. It's showing summaries, like the fund, the general fund, it's looking like, it's saying here that we spent 51.39% of our budgeted amount so far, and we're late into the year. So that is looking, possibly like there's gonna be, some money left over for the Fund 46 or the projects. This doesn't give an exact dollar amount, unless you took the difference between the two, but we're gonna spend, to the end of June in these funds. And then you see things like your debt service, basically means that we paid, we've paid our debt service, that's 100% of both referendum and non-referendum debt. Things like community service fund, we haven't ran things like, the daycare type thing, what was that called, Cardinal Club? So that's a snapshot of expenditures, and I've got one more slide, one more thing called budget assumptions, and it's trying to estimate, just do a quick look at where we might end up next year. So if you click on the third link, and this is, the way I've worked on things to get real close, because you don't have all the details, you look at what's different for next year. So we know, actually feel fortunate, we have a 3% increase in health insurance, and that's with the CISA 3 co-op that we're in. We went out to bid, and it's not only 3%, the next 2 years going forward, it's guaranteed not to exceed 5%. We had another group, we had several groups that wouldn't bid because they just didn't think they could compete. We had another group that bid, and they had a lower premium at first, but then they looked at it, they didn't have the network. So we're we're a group of schools, so some of the schools wouldn't, they have to change, they wouldn't have coverage where they live, they have to drive to Madison. And so we're trying to get more schools, and there's 12. But anyway, 3% is a good increase, that's $15,666. We've also made some assumptions because the outgoing vocal teacher had insurance, and we think the new one is young enough to be on their parents' insurance, so we took that into account, and then later on, we're hiring another teacher that we expect will be on insurance, but it would be single insurance, so we made those adjustments, so 15,000 for insurance increase, transportation, we put in a 2% increase. Teacher salaries, and I'll go through that later in the meeting, but with adding 550 to the base, plus the lane movements, plus additional teacher, the total salaries would be 69,400. That's based on a 2% increase. So later on, you'll see that we're recommending 2% for all the employees across the board for increases. And then with the teacher salaries, she's showing the retirement and the Social Security part. Support staff wage increase, 6,400. 30 cents an hour is 2%, or right, real close to 2%. And admin and non-union, again, their wage is 9,400. So new increase in expenditures, and that's based on basically changes in people, health insurance, which is a people cost, and it's all people increases, except for the open enrollment out. We're looking at a $10,000 increase. We're just estimating based on what we see. So 126,000 new money going out, new costs we have. And then for money coming in, the ESSER funding, open enrollment in, we have a couple more students recently. That's changed a little bit, so that's increased to 46 we're projecting. And then again, that increase in tax levy because we paid that one debt off and freed up that money. So we have more money, more new revenue than new expenditures, which is good. And it's not gonna be exactly like this, but the new expenditures will be really close, really close to that. But the new money coming in, that's gonna change a little bit, I'm guessing.
And again, that ESSER funding that's listed there is potentially multi-year funding that isn't necessarily all have to be spent next year.
Correct, and then there's another amount of money, up to maybe a couple, 200,000, 200 to 240 from ESSER 3 that, we didn't factor that in because we wouldn't, that would be down the road. So that's just an update. Any questions on that? I mean, it's next year we should, they'll do a 2-year budget and we'll have an idea, at least what the state formula is. So next year at this time, we'll know how much per student, and it shouldn't be a lot. They changed it up every 2 years. So 1 year is really a guessing year, and that's this year. But it helps when you have, you're not changing personnel as much. It's hard to add too many staff. That's usually generally stays in there, and the ESSER, some of this COVID money helps, but that's only gonna, after a few years, that's gonna be gone, so that may bring us into the referendum time too.
All right, does anybody have any other questions on the finance budget projections? Looks like they've heard enough on that. On to the Warco transportation then, Bryce.
So we talk at finance committee about this, and we had paid 20 days at 80% for the days that we didn't run the buses. There was agreement with Warco because they still have expenses and they're still paying their people, so we had 99,500, just about 100,000 in the budget, and We have 20 days that we've paid. We have 13 more days if we don't have any more days that we would be paying virtual days. And there is something like seven days that we didn't, that weren't counted as virtual, that were like, we had some snow days, and we had some days that we just didn't count virtual. And so we're not getting billed at all for those. And the actual savings in the budget, between the budget amount and what we would end up the year with, is $7,165. 3,700 of that is from, 33 virtual days, we're paying 80% instead of 100. And then part of this is to work with our transportation company, because we have 3 routes. We want to make sure that the transportation company wants to keep working with us. And, we're not a big profit center, make sure that we can have somebody. And my understanding is Work has been good to work with in the past, so we're trying to work and keep that good relationship. So the recommendation is, so the contract was set up, when the contract was issued, it was, if you had days canceled, virtual days due to COVID, the first 20 are paid at 80%, we negotiate anything after that. Well, the negotiation that we want, he's accepted that we pay 80% of the next 13 weeks too. So we just have to be board approved.
I make a motion to approve.
I second that motion.
The motion by Esser and a second by Schimick to approve the Warco contract agreement. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, on to personnel items then.
Can I get Josh to go through these hirings? I've been talking an awful lot.
Can do.
Sounds good. The first one then is 2021-2022 elementary teacher contract, and this is a new ad, right?
This is a new ad, for this fall, would be a first grade position that, may change as obviously years go forward and that class moves on, but for this fall, it'll be a first grade position. And we recommend Krista Dilly. She is a lady from Monticello originally, now lives in Montfort. Has previous teaching experience in Madison and in Oshkosh. So this has been a hire that, to be very honest, that was very difficult in the sense that we had very, very good candidates that applied. So I was very pleased. It was a problem, but it was a nice problem. And Krista rose to the top for us, and I think she's doing a great job for us.
Make a motion to approve the first grade teacher hire.
I'll second.
A motion by Esser and a second by Mitchick to approve the elementary teacher contract. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next one then would be general music chorus teacher contract, and this is a replacement.
This will be a contract that is replaced for our K through 5th grade general music, our middle school choir, and our high school choir. I'm excited to recommend Rebecca or Becky Payne. Finished up college now, has been working at Meadow Point doing some long-term stuff, and she's very excited, and we're very excited to recommend her. She's gonna do great.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mitchick and a second by Drury to approve the general music and chorus teacher contract. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Updates on volunteer baseball coaches.
Yeah, the update, obviously is not something that, right, we don't vote on this one, but just to let you know, we have a student teacher that student taught here last and now has just been subbing for us. Pretty much, we've been crazy needing subs and he's been outstanding, but he's from Barnville, Trevor Sigenthaler, that loves baseball, wants to help out, so he's gonna help out with the boys' baseball program.
All right. Then on to
What
the,
was last one?
What was last one?
Oh, you mean this one?
That one, we've already discussed that. Trevor, we did last one.
Oh, we already mentioned it? Oh, the other one is Grant Hing. Obviously, you guys know Grant. We know his mom a little bit, I guess. But he's going to school down in Platteville. Has time in his schedule, would love to help out. Terry would love to have him. So, we'd like to recommend this grant, or not recommend, but inform you.
Okay.
And then, sorry, TJ Cool, I forgot about him, sorry. He's helping out too, so we'd like to let you know that TJ Cool is finishing up at Madison, has the time now, so he's gonna help out as well.
sounds good. Then we'll move on to next year's salaries and wages. I think if you just wanna go over these all and we can approve as a group, if they were significantly different, we could discuss them a little different, but they're all
2% increase across the board, so, teachers, that means $550 per teacher. And then some teachers are moving us in the salary schedule, so they'll get larger increases according to the salary schedule we have. But it's 2% raise, support staff, the 2% equals 30 cents. It gets several of our support staff people up to $15 an hour. And one good thing about that is, if we ever go to mandatory minimum wage, 15, we're almost there with everybody, which is, we really count on support staff. And so these people need to have something that they can, keeps them around here, and non-union and administrative, so they're all 2%.
So they're all 2%, but the teachers don't all get 2%. It's a 2% average.
Correct.
Based on the movement, so.
And there's incentive to move, so the ones that can get the stuff done can move quicker.
I'll make a motion to approve the salary and wage increases for all three sets.
I'll second that.
A motion by Mitchick and a second by Esser to approve next year's salary and wages as presented. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Items for signature, we've got everybody here tonight, we should be able to catch those. Dates for next board meeting and committees that may be necessary. Regular board is easy, it'd be the second Wednesday in May, which will be the 12th at 6 o'clock. And then is there any committees? Are we gonna need another B and G before then?
Do you need to do another B and G when we get the final price on the roof? We did not to exceed, do we need to do that? Don't think we do it.
We don't,
Yeah, more than the 16, then we'll have.
If it came back higher, yeah, we'd have to come back. But it's under that, we're good.
And then the PA system, we got kind of a heads up on this time, so I don't think it necessarily is needed that the building and ground meets to review those. I think they can just be brought back to the board.
We'll probably have a bid for the concession stand in the cafeteria commons, hopefully by then.
I guess see how much kind of piles up and what you get back for other potential costs, and if you get something, just let us know and we can always get that
Yeah.
scheduled.
Do we do 2 meetings in June? Do we do one in late June?
We have,
Budget transfers?
if we need to, one of the things that we found with that Fund 46 transfer is sometimes we don't need to meet at the end because that gives us some flexibility.
Yes.
Um,
We did that last year in July, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh,
But a lot of times we do have a second meeting towards the end of June just to finalize the budget transfers, right?
thanks.
One thing we may, speaking of concession stand, and we don't have to set it now, but if we get a number of, we sent it out to all the contractors in our district. I think it was around 7 or 8. So if we do get a lot of bids, we're probably gonna want a B&G
Right.
before the next board meeting on
Yeah.
it. So,
And yes, we did have 2 last June, Bryce. All right, I think we're down to the end here.
We don't have to have another policy, right?
I'm gonna bring that one,
I thought that was, we had to.
We had talked about having a policy.
Okay,
Or I think what Bryce had talked about was sending an edit out to the group,
okay,
or at least the policy committee.
I just,
And get some feedback on it and decide whether we needed to get together and meet on it, or if we were,
oh,
if you'd be good with it.
okay.
so it doesn't
If
technically.
I don't get anywhere, we'll get together
Okay,
and maybe ask some people to come and meet with us too.
If you could do that in April yet, that would be great. Right, Greg?
We can do it next week, because he's technically done the following week, so.
Save us cake, it was cake, keep until then.
It's like you're like $25 or whatever it is for another meeting.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A motion by Viva and a second by Drury to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming. And we have cake.
You take care.
And you
Keep eating, you can have a massive-
just gotta get Josh, can you end the meeting, or does Brad have to do that?
I will give her a shot.
I think you are the last one. to
Don't think I
sign
can.
off those.
Yeah.
So you still have to sign it.
I see like we're looking at Walmart and Walmart.
yeah, he does.
Cool. That's okay.
Yeah. Right?
Turn it down so you don't have
You
to
can be push
guess.
a cutter button.
Yeah.
That's the only trick.
Get all excited to see
You can give yourself 2 pieces.
And I'm like, no, I was not, yeah, she does not know me. I haven't. They had an exciting season.
Take it back.
Yep. They just finished last night.
Had a real good game, the first game against Cashton, I guess, and then they lost real close, and then they just. But then Royal beat Cashton, I think they're all girls in one state.
So
Can you edit on the
had
iPad?
it set up in the, when they did that split season like that, they were not having state
I mean,
rules.
the meeting.
Maybe it's not state, maybe
Meeting be done?
Maybe it's like a weekend of football,
Yeah.
maybe it ended, there's that lacrosse, so maybe.
Yeah, it was weird.
I thought they weren't doing a state for the spring.
I don't think they could, since they split the.
Right.
Doesn't matter if I leave or
Yeah,
not.
it's gonna go to state, so it's
Cool.
same thing we had in.
Oh.
And we are still recording, just so you guys know that.
There he is.
Oh.
Bradley, can you end the meeting? Are recording first?
Oh, did I not get one? Sorry. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for catching that. Barb would have been.
I would have been calling you tomorrow. Frank, you get to take home whatever's left.
Oh, boy. I have wrestlers on the house.
And they're supposed to be wrestling this weekend, right?
Hide it from him. Give it to Stella.
Yeah.
You going down too, Greg?
Yeah, I am.
You guys leaving early tomorrow?
4:30 tomorrow morning.
Oh, my goodness.
Also.
Okay, I'm just gonna wait and make sure we didn't miss anything else.
He's in there, yeah.
I know Johnny contacted you about half-day workday, and I'm not imagining that you said that last year when you brought that up. When she contacted you.
Hello,
And for those.
when you guys brought that report meeting,
Yeah,
clearly noted that.
Stay working?
Well, no, that parents would have the option. I know.
I think
It's just way every day.
Right, yes, that would be every day, but the bulk of the education would be in the morning. And parents would-
Can I grab my before she leaves? Those are done.